Hello and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television. This is the midweek edition of the program, and we are set to keep you up to speed with developments in the street of business and also break the numbers as they come in from the stock market. I am your host, Christiana Amodu Otinya. Thank you for always making a date with us on the program. First, we'll begin with the headlines. Now, we'll begin from the front of what's happening in the fiscal sector. Now, on the fiscal sector development, the federal government's 6-month expenditure has exceeded its revenue by 6 trillion naira. And on public procurement, the Bureau of Public Procurement is set to revise documents to address inadequacies. We'll give you more on these stories on the Business Roundup segment of the program. I'll take a short break. When we return, time to look at what the arrows are saying in the stock market. Please stay. Welcome back. Now let's get straight into it and look at updates from the equity segment of the Nigeria Exchange. We begin from the local bars here in Nigeria, and the equity segment of the Nigeria Exchange lost 440 billion naira over profit-taking activities on the share of Dangote, MTN Nigeria and Guinness. So we saw the benchmark all-share index decline by 1.82% to settle at 43,461.60. Now on activity levels, the total volume of 249.91 million shares valued at 2.50 billion naira changed hands in 3,283 deals on the floor of the Nigeria Exchange. The equity cap settled at 23.67 trillion naira. So it's going below the 24 trillion naira mark that we have seen the market capitalization stay on that point for some time now. Now we are seeing a whooping 440 billion naira was cut off, or there was like a haircut come off the market capitalization, and this as a result of profit-taking activities by investors on the Nigeria Exchange. Let's also tell you that trading has officially commenced. In-person trading has commenced on the floor of the Nigeria Exchange. Remember, the COVID-19 pandemic came with so many disadvantages, and we saw that the world built a remote economy, a stay-at-home economy, and we saw that also happen on the floor of the Nigeria Exchange. But in-person trading has started on the floor of the Nigeria Exchange, and we are seeing the traders return back to the floor. Remember, we are seeing that the market is staying largely bearish, 1.82% down. For some analysts, they tend to call a lot of these portfolio investors more like gamblers, because they go where the rates are more attractive. And we are seeing what's happening with central banks around the world. Just last week, we saw the Jerome Powell-led Federal Reserve also tighten further the rates in the United States. And of course, investors will look at where the yields are better and take their monies there. And that is affecting emerging markets like Nigeria, hence why we're seeing a downward trend coming in for the Nigeria equities market. Let's go over to other markets from the African region. Now we'll look at what's happening with the JSE in South Africa, down 0.62%. Now the arrow, of course, there is in the red at 69,011. Now locally, South Africa's power utility Eskom has announced that it will implement stage 2 rolling blackouts from today until further notice. Now on the cheering note for South Africa's, now South Africa's 1.5 trillion South African rand Just Energy Transition Investment Plan has been officially endorsed by the International Partners Group, now at the COP27, which is currently ongoing in Egypt. Now, the partners include the United Kingdom, the United States, Germany, France, and the European Union. So some cheering news for South Africa. There's a lot of news coming in, especially as it relates to issues around blackouts in South Africa. A lot of South Africans now, beyond just seeing light at the end of the tunnel, they want to see light, of course, in their homes to also run their businesses. Let's go over to Wall Street and see what's the mood like in Wall Street in the United States. So quite green. We're seeing a lot of green happening here. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 1.02%. The S&P 500 there, 0.56%. And the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite is up 0.49%. So all the markets in the U.S. staying in the green. of course, the focus for those in this strait is really, and globally generally, is what's happening on the political front in the U.S., talking about the midterm elections, and this will also bring about issues around policy clarity. And the final 2 months of the year are considered a bullish period for investors. So it's little wonder that we are seeing this market staying in the green. Let's go over to Europe and see what's happening there. Of course, European markets have opened and have started trading. So we have just one negative on this board here, and it's coming from the FTSE 100, down 0.35%. For the markets, the CAC 40 in France and the DAX in Germany, they are staying largely higher, 0.04% and 1.15% there, respectively. Of course, like I mentioned earlier on, the focus for this market is generally the midterm elections in the United States. Now, the midterm elections will determine whether Democrats keep their slim majorities in the House and Senate, or if Republicans will seize control of one or both chambers of the legislature in the U.S. Going over to the Asia-Pacific region now, stocks were mixed as investors digest incoming results in the U.S. Now, the Nikkei 225 in Japan was down 0.56%. In mainland China, the Shanghai Composite shed 0.49% there to end at 3,049.37. For the South Korean Strait, the Kospi is the only positive we have here, up 0.82% to settle at 2,418.7. Of course, it is normally said that good politics generally would translate to good economies, because, of course, those that are elected are the ones that are really in the room when the policies are being made. And these policies affect the economy, affect all sectors in the economy across board. Let's look at the commodities chart this morning and see what's happening with those prices, talking about what's happening with the commodity prices. Now, there's a lot of red sentiment happening here. So we have red for the bullion, the yellow metal gold shedding 0.17% there at $1,709. Now, gold prices jumped, but we are seeing a decline still coming in. And there's still a lot of focus on the inflation data that's expected from the United States equally this week. That's a key focus also for investors and those that watch the market. For Brent crude, the international benchmark for crude oil, of course, up 0.15% there, now trading at $95.47 per barrel. Now, oil prices are also being impacted by worries about fuel demand as COVID-19 outbreaks worsen in top crude importer China and jitters about the outcome of the U.S. midterm election. There's also issues coming out from the COP27, talking about climate financing, energy financing. A lot of that is also affecting the sentiment we are seeing play out in the oil market. Now, for the agro commodities, we have palm oil trading at $4,265 per metric ton, down 2.20%. For cocoa is at $2,537, as you can see here, at 1.24% higher. And for wheat is still staying firmly in the $800 mark. As you can see there, $826.44 per metric ton. Let's go over to the crypto market, where there was a major shed of the crypto market. Now, this will come as a surprise for some. Now, we are seeing Bitcoin going below the $20,000 mark and hitting an all-time low for the year 2022. Now, it's at $18,412. Now, we are seeing issues around the cryptocurrency market tumbling after Binance and FTX, the world's two biggest crypto exchanges, agreed to merge to address what Binance called a liquidity crunch in the market. We're seeing Ethereum also finishing in the red zone, 2.50% lower at $1,303.25. And for Binance Coin, $318 there, shedding also 4%. Now, the moves is coming after Bankman-Fried announced on Twitter that Binance will buy FTX's non-US business for an undisclosed sum. Now, Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao confirmed the news minutes later. And this is affecting sentiment in the crypto market. It's been really bearish for the market, and there's been a lot of red mood here for the crypto market. But of course, we'll continue to monitor this market. We'll monitor those arrows as they are moving and bring updates to you here on Business Daily. That's the much we can take for the Equities Market Watch segment. Now it's time to bring you major stories in the Business Roundup.
The federal government's expenditure in the first 6 months of 2022 exceeded revenue by 6.23 trillion naira, according to latest figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria. According to the second quarter economic report on fiscal sector development compiled from the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and Central Bank of Nigeria staff, estimates the federal government recorded 3.2 trillion naira and 2.74 trillion naira fiscal deficit in the first and second quarters of 2022. The drop in FGN expenditure compared with the decline in FGN retained revenue induced a contraction in fiscal deficits in the second quarter of 2022 from first quarter report. It, however, exceeded the federal government's fiscal deficit budget of 1.6 trillion naira for the period under review. Driven by a reduction in capital spending, the provisional aggregate expenditure of the FGN fell by 17.1% and 11.4% relative to the level in the first quarter of 2022 and the quarterly target, respectively. The provisional aggregate expenditure of the federal government of Nigeria amounted to 3.79 trillion naira in the review period. The Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP, says there is an urgent need to revise Nigeria's procurement documents to address inadequacies observed by ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs. BPP Director General Merman Amadu, while speaking in Lagos on Tuesday at a stakeholders workshop on the review of draft for the standard leaving and contracting documents, said the existing documents were developed in 2009 and last updated in 2011. Amadu, who was represented at the event by the Director, Energy Infrastructure, BPP, Babatunde Kuye, said the ultimate objective was to ensure transparency and promote competition. Other objectives, he said, included cost-effectiveness and professionalism in the public sector procurement system and disposal of public assets in line with global practices. BPP, the Bureau of Public Procurement, is the regulatory authority responsible for the monitoring and oversight of public procurements.
And that's it for the Business Roundup. Our focal point on the program today will be creating a nexus basically between the transportation sector and how that sector is helping to catalyze growth in the Nigerian economy. Just recently, we had the minister speak about a scorecard, the scorecard of the journey so far, especially for the transport sector. He spoke to issues around how that sector is helping growth across different sectors of the economy, speaking about issues around supply chain, around the railway system, the road system. And this sector specifically helps, it gives an offshoot to other sectors, talking about the manufacturing sector, how basically businesses can have access to markets. There's also the waterways, there's also the ports authority. Now all of this is calibrating to the highlights we saw from the scorecard released by the minister. I have my guest with me. He is Aliu Audu, an economist and also a public affairs analyst. I want to get your thoughts basically. Now we all saw that scorecard that came in from the transportation minister speaking around issues with regards to what the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration has done in terms of harping on the potentials of the sector. What are your thoughts? How would you appraise the sector as it contributes to economic development in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much. Obviously, transportation sector is a very important sector, and it is a sector that a lot of other sectors depend on. So it is quite important. Obviously, there are strides by the present administration in terms of transportation, railway transportation, and other forms of transportation.
Yes.
And, they are trying, to the best of my knowledge. especially in the railway sector. You notice that ever since the administration came into power, the Kaduna Abuja Railway, it started functioning, and then we have the Itakpe that I think that goes all the way to Delta State, and then we have the Ibadan Lagos. So all those ones started, and I was quite happy that those form of transportation are kicking off, because majority of Nigerians cannot afford to pay too much for transportation, and the cheapest means of transportation is railway transportation. Yes. So it is important that we revive our railway transportation, because it can carry a lot of people over a long distance. It is safer and it is cheaper. When you have an effective railway system, the cost of transportation reduces, because one of the things that contributes to inflation also is transportation. Yes. When it costs the farmer a huge amount of money to move goods, especially agricultural goods, from the north to the south, onions, tomatoes, and all that, that is going to translate into the cost of those products. So transportation is a very, very important aspect. Okay. Now, we did have, the bombing of the Kaduna.
The insecurity issues.
The insecurity issues that stopped that, and that obviously would affect prices, trade, yes, and a lot of movement of people. So that needs to be revived. Our end goal is to have all towns and villages connected to a central transportation system, to have train stations connecting everywhere around Nigeria, so that there will be free movement of goods and services, and that will drive costs by a great deal.
Okay, I want to hold you on that thought. I have a follow-up to that response from you, but we will do that after this short break. The program continues. Please stay with us.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back, and thank you for still staying there with us. This is still Business Daily, and we're coming to you from Trust Television. Our focus today, like I mentioned earlier on, is on the transport sector. Now, the scorecard was given by the minister on how far so far, especially for the transport sector. We have excerpts from the minister speaking there. Take a listen.
While assuring the restoration of the suspended Abuja-Kaduna shuttle service before the end of this month, the Minister of Transport told newsmen that comprehensive plan has been made to guarantee a 24-hour surveillance of the rail lines to ensure safety of travelers.
The minister should be able to sit in his office and look at the rail corridor and see what is happening there. The president should be able to do that. The Director General of the SSS should be able to do that, and so on, and all other security agencies. These are the measures we have put in place.
Unprecedented rail modernization, including the Trans-Saharan Kano to Maradi, He says the projects, amongst others, will boost the nation's economy and facilitate trade relations between Nigeria and others up to Europe if completed.
Niger is supposed to continue from Maradi up to its border. The next country, which is I think Mali, will take up, and then Algeria will take its own. And before you know it, you can move your cargo from Lagos to Europe by rail, and cheaply so.
Providing a sector-by-sector achievements of the Buhari administration, the Transport Minister enumerated the Deep Blue Sea amongst other projects in the maritime sector.
The President commissioned the Deep Blue project in June 2021, and we are proud today to inform Nigeria and indeed the world that since the commissioning took place, there hasn't been a single reported case of piracy in Nigeria's exclusive economic zone.
The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, who moderated the session, reiterated that the Buhari government has made giant strides in the area of critical infrastructure, far above any other administration. There are, however, growing concerns on the huge borrowings the government is embarking upon to realize these projects.
There you have it there, the Minister of Transportation speaking towards the strides having achieved by the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration in the transport sector. My guest is still with me here in the studio, Aliu Audu. Now, you listened to the Minister there speaking specifically about the railway system, and he spoke to issues around how technology can be employed to also help make the railway system safer. However, I want you to speak to issues around how, beyond just movement of humans, and how can we ensure that we have these rail services also move large goods and large manufactured goods to ensure that the manufacturers to take that burden that we see about wastage by manufacturers on the roads?
Oh, well, there is the cargo rail transportation.
Yes.
There's the passenger transportation,
yes,
and there's the cargo transportation, just like we have airline for cargo and we have airline for passengers. And also in terms of road transportation, we have passengers transportation and we have cargo transportation. Well, the difference is that rail is able to carry more. One of the reasons why our solid minerals have remained untapped is because we do not have the transportation system to move them around. If you go to Ajaokuta, rolling mill in Kogi State,
yes,
it's a complex that has its own rail system.
yes.
So from the point of mining to the point of utilization,
Yes.
there is a rail system. Now I'm from Kogi State, and we have coal, a lot of coal in Kogi State. There is a place called Dangpa that Dangote mines a lot of coal. Now, you see a lot of trucks of coal coming from there. Now, they cause a lot of damage on the roads.
Yeah.
And this makes, sometimes it leads to death because the traffic is too much and the brakes of the trucks don't work. The burden on the road is too much and it destroys the road. Normally, what should have happened is a rail system that transports it from the point of mining directly. So, to answer your question is that rail is supposed to have the cargo section that transports coal or any minerals or cargoes. If you go to developed countries, they don't move heavy cargo by road because the pressure on the road will be too much and it will cause potholes, it will destroy the roads. So that is the advantage that rail system has over airline and over road system. And if until our rail system is developed to that point, then we are lacking a lot. The rail system can greatly reduce costs, can also reduce inflation because the cost of moving whether solid materials, agricultural products from point A to B will become considerably cheaper.
Yes.
And you can take more. So in my advice to the federal government is we need to develop our rail system. I know the administration has tried
Yes.
in comparison to previous administrations in terms of the rail system, but we need to do more. Nigerians need to be able to move from one point to another through the rail system. Every village, every town in Nigeria is supposed to have a rail system.
The minister also spoke about the waterways, talking about the Deep Blue Sea project, about how he mentioned there rightly that since that project commenced, issues of piracy has not come up after that has been able to be nipped in the bud. Now, just recently we are seeing issues around oil theft and how some vessels are being reprimanded across Nigerian waterways. How do you think that issues around the waterways can further be made better, especially as it relates to the oil sector now?
Well, I just think they need to put in more investment in terms of security. I know they have there was, the amnesty deal. They are paying militants. I think they should involve more of them, because once you involve them, I think they'll feel the need to protect, to be more involved and protect, transportation system, because at the end of the day, it's going to benefit everybody. It's going to benefit the whole of Nigerians. So my answer to that is that I believe there should be more investment in that sector. And it's not possible to have 100% guarantee in terms of security.
Yes.
Nowhere in the world is 100% guaranteed. So I believe more should be put and more effort should be dedicated to it, because recently I think they've caught some,
yes,
people, putting pipes,
yes,
all the way to the sea,
yes,
and then having like a base on the ship,
yes,
where they
yes,
can, on the sea,
yes,
where they can extract that. Now,
okay,
that is something that is meant for the whole of Nigerians.
Okay.
And in particular, a few people are taking it away. That is not good.
Thank you.
So those
Thank you
issues
so
needs to be addressed.
Thank you,
Thank you
Ali Audu. Thank you for always taking time to share your thoughts with us on the program. And that's where we draw the curtains for the program today. Thank you also for investing your time with us on the program. The transport sector, of course, plays a huge role in tandem with economic development. I am Christiana Amodu Otinya. Enjoy the rest of your day and continue to stay safe.